What about Jalen Johnson? Like, what's the ceiling for this guy? I mean, he can score at 3 levels.
Yeah.
Incredible athlete. He's
like I mentioned Scottie
lead.
Pippen, man. And obviously he has a long way to go. But as far as the talent, you look at a guy with long arms, 6'9", 6'10", runs like a deer, super athletic.
The NBA spotlight, Jalen Johnson was already a name basketball fans were watching closely. Coming out of Wisconsin, Jalen was one of the top recruits in the entire country. At 6'8", he had the size of a forward, but the skills of a guard. His ball handling, running the floor, passing and finishing above the rim. Recruiting services ranked him as a 5-star prospect and one of the best players in the 2020 class. And naturally, one of college basketball's biggest programs came calling, the Duke Blue Devils. Even with that, Jalen's time at Duke was a bit complicated. He showed flashes of his talents early, scoring, rebounding, and displaying elite versatility. However, there was questions about his lack of defense, lack of motor, effort, and drive. Then midway through the season, just before March Madness, Jalen made the decision that shocked the college basketball world. He opted out of the remainder of the season to prepare for the draft. Now, he got a lot of criticism behind this. Critics immediately questioned his commitment. Was he really hurt? Some labeled him as a quitter. He also had a foot injury that he needed to tend to. But, that even brought up more questions as to why would he leave the campus. Some wondered why didn't he just stay on campus and receive the treatment through the Duke training staff. But, I don't put too much stock into that because there's a lot of players that prefer to use their surrounding team, have a group of doctors and trainers that they can work with. He can be at home, rest his body more, and as well as his mental. Because another rumor that I heard was that he wasn't happy with Duke only using him for 8 minutes. They had Mark Williams at the time, another big that was getting more burn. And with the core that they had, they seemed to play better without Jalen and with Jalen coming off the bench. So his fear was that, hey, if I keep going down this road, I'm going to fall out of the first round. And he really wanted to get drafted in the first round. And with this, others believed him and that he was simply protecting his future. Either way, his draft stock became one of the biggest question marks in the 2021 draft. Despite all the controversy, the talent was impossible to ignore. The 2021 draft, that my Atlanta Hawks did draft Jalen Johnson with the 20th overall pick. In my opinion, looking back over this draft list, what we know today, Jalen should have been drafted number 2. Only behind Cade Cunningham. He's the only person on this list that I feel that is just equal to him. I don't feel like he's better. I feel like he's equal to him. Some people will probably say Sengun. Well, Sengun, he's averaging today 20 points, 9 boards, 6 assists, shooting 50% from the field. Wagner, okay, some might argue that Wagner's better. He's averaging 21 points, 6 boards, 4 assists, shooting 48% from the field. Scotty Barnes, okay, if you're a Scotty Barnes fan, he's averaging 19 points, 8 boards, and 5 assists, shooting 50% from the field. Evan Mobley was drafted before him. He's averaging 18 points, 9 boards, 4 assists, shooting 52% from the field. Cade Cunningham, to me, is the only one that comes close to Jalen, averaging 25 points, 6 boards a game, and 10 assists, shooting 46% from the field, with Jalen Johnson coming in at 23 points a game, 10 boards, 8 assists, shooting 50% from the field. He's 2 assists per game away from an averaging a triple-double for the season. So he's clearly, in my opinion, better than all of them. However, I will honestly say he and Cade are right there together. Now back to the Hawks. The Hawks already had established a core led by Trae Young, but they were looking for young players that could grow into bigger roles. I know there was talks of getting more comparable to what Jalen offered. He had all the tools, the length, athleticism, playmaking. Now, it was tough at first because Jalen, like many other young players, he had to earn his minutes. I think Cade was probably the only one that was just immediately handed the keys and didn't have anybody else on the roster with him. It takes time to build up that young core, and I'll never forget being in a members meeting for the Atlanta Hawks, and I was very high on John Collins. John Collins was my favorite, and Jalen would be the one to replace John Collins, and I didn't want to see that happen. It wasn't just me. There was a lot of fans just didn't see it. All of the hoopla that was in the news about Jalen, how he had done at Duke, and then him being so young. We were just so used to John Collins and what he had to offer. And I remember in the meeting, a fellow season ticket holder asked the question, like, what's going on with John Collins? Why isn't he getting the ball as much? Why is he having to share his minutes and everything like that? And at the time, we had Landry Fields, and he upsold Jalen Johnson to us. He spent a good 15 minutes of that meeting uplifting Jalen Johnson. Have you seen Jalen Johnson highlights? You need to go back and watch them. So we knew then they were going to be building around Jalen, and time, the clock was ticking for John Collins. So with Jalen, early on, with John Collins still being there, that was a season we also went to the Eastern Conference Finals. Jalen spent a lot of time developing in the G League, learning the Hawks system. Instead of being discouraged, Johnson used that time to improve his game. He worked on his game because one of the weaknesses he had at Duke was shooting. He worked on his three-point shooting. His defensive awareness was always an issue. He began to work on that as well. His decision making with the ball. And with all that hard work, slowly but surely, the flashes became more consistent. And when he was given the opportunities, Jalen began to show the Atlanta Hawks exactly what they were looking for. Then came the breakthrough. When injuries and roster changes opened the door, Jalen stepped right in, and the impact was immediate. And suddenly, as a Hawks fan, we were seeing explosive transition dunks, playmaking from the forward spot, elite rebounding and defense, a versatile modern NBA skill set. At times, Jalen was the most athletic player on the court. His ability to push the ball in transition and create plays gave Atlanta a new dynamic, and his confidence continued to grow. In today's NBA, versatility is everything, and Jalen Johnson has it. At nearly 6'9", he can guard multiple positions. His lateral quickness is top tier. Handle the ball like a guard, finish like a big, and create offense in transition. Players with that combination are incredibly valuable, which is why I believe the Hawks started looking at him and figuring we can move off of Trae Young. He has playmaking skills. He can move like a guard. Let's move off of him and see where we can get with Jalen Johnson. And that's exactly why most fans like myself and analysts now see Jalen Johnson as a core piece of Atlanta's future. For the Hawks, the development of Jalen Johnson can be a major factor in our success moving forward. He brings energy, athleticism, defensive versatility, things every contender needs. And if his offensive game continues to grow, he continued to work on his craft, knocking down those threes, Atlanta may have found something special. The same player who faced criticism early in his career is now becoming one of the most exciting young forwards in the league. From a high school superstar to a controversial college exit to a rising NBA talent with his first NBA All-Star under his belt, Jalen Johnson's journey hasn't been perfect, but it's proven to be something important. Sometimes the path to success isn't straight, and sometimes the players people doubt the most end up proving everybody wrong. Will the Hawks be a future contender? We shall see. Anyway, that's all I got. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and as always, stay safe. On to the next one.